of our gifted students that we work with. And so many times what we know about gifted students is that we see them as undifferentiated groups. But what we really know is once they've been identified, or when we're looking at kids, that they become very differentiated, not only just in their intellectual ability, but also their talents and their interests as well. And so we sometimes need to take the better look of the holistic look of saying, okay, what are some of the behaviors, the feelings, and the needs of the students that may be, part of that profile. And so I kind of break it up into, as I was thinking about this, there's a couple things I break it up into. One is the successful student who we definitely see right away. They're the ones that are going to go off the charts on our assessments. They're the ones that are going to be doing everything we ask. But often we miss some of those students that are a little bit more challenging, and they may have a little bit of more sarcasm, or they're a little bit less tact to them. But they're very, very creative creatures. And then we have the ones that just really want to be underground, right? Those are the ones that, I mean, they are just out of the park when they're in elementary. Then they start losing a little bit of interest in some of the things that were, very, very well known as their strengths. So I say this because I think there's so many assets and so many holistic ways we look at our children. And it's important that when we have the root causes of some of the things that we're looking at, it gives us a better holistic understanding of what are the needs of our gifted kids. So just wanted to, thank you all for being here, and just welcome you, and just know that we're working hard to meet the needs of your child, and we'll continue being partners with you as we move forward and helping make sure that your students are getting advanced or accelerated in education experience. So thank you. I'm going to turn it over back to Pam.
All right. Well, I would like to welcome you all to our third virtual GT Table Talk. Today's topic is the profiles of the gifted and talented students, as Brian mentioned, and we're so happy that you're going to join us today. Our best hope is that you come away from today with a better understanding of your gifted learner by learning the different traits. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Pam Smith. I'm the GT specialist at A.K. Hyman, Dos Rios, Meeker, Maplewood, and Chapelos K through 3. We have our other GT specialists here with you today, and I would like to just give them some time to each introduce themselves and tell you the schools they're from. So Tiffany, what if we start with you?
I can do that. My name is Tiffany Beecher, and I am the specialist this year for Early College Academy, Brentwood Middle School, and Prairie Heights Middle School. And just a quick question, because she asked, if you are needing translation, Julia is over in the translation room. If not, she wants to join us back over here. So if you do need translation and you need help getting switched over, just let us know in the chat.
I'm Jody Mueller, and I am a gifted and talented specialist at Bello Romero K-8, Jackson, Scott, and Shawsheen Elementaries.
I'm Linda Johnson, and I'm the gifted talented specialist at Franklin Middle School and Northridge High School.
I'm Danae Rosso. I work at Chapelo, grades 4 through 8, Fred Chartis, Mumford, and Winograd.
We may not be able to hear Julia because she's in the translation room.
That is correct. We won't be able to hear her. So a few things that will make today go a little bit smoother. Sorry, I forgot a moment that this was me. While we were listening to Ms. Smith, please think about your own kiddo and think about kind of their learning styles that you see at home and that you hear about at parent-teacher conferences, and have questions ready. We'd love to be able to help you understand that a little bit more. But a few things, just keep in mind, we're going to keep our questions or our comments general. We want to refrain from using the names of students or schools or teachers. We want to be open to new learning. She's got a lot of great information to share with us today. And be willing to take any specific questions or concerns about your child to their GT specialist. that list is provided at the end. So if you're not sure who that specialist is, we can make sure you get in touch with them. And know that this session is being recorded. So if you want to revisit it later because you're like, wait, I remember them saying something, or you want to share it with somebody, that is going to be available to you as soon as we can push it out. And if somebody misses it and they mentioned it to you, you can tell them that it's available.
All right, so the profiles of the gifted and talented were developed by Dr. George Betts. They categorize personality traits, characteristics into 6 categories: the successful, the creative, the underground, at risk, twice exceptional, the autonomous learner. Let me preface this by saying that you may see characteristics of your child in more than one profile. The profiles can overlap, and where a student lies may change over time. The first profile that we're going to be discussing is the successful. The successful GT students are the type most often identified in gifted programs. They're the students that people usually think about when they think about a gifted and talented student. They are the teacher pleasers and the high achievers. They are motivated by the grade and they work for the A. The successful gifted student seeks extrinsic approval and rewards to validate their achievements. They often avoid risk-taking experiences and they want to know exactly what they need to do to get that A. Accepting mistakes and learning that failures are experiences to learn by are important lessons for the successful gifted student. They may need help identifying what their wants are and separating their desires from the people they want to please. Creativity should be encouraged. A growth mindset needs to be fostered to encourage healthy emotional development. The successful student is well liked and they, oops, just a minute, I skipped a page. Parents need to allow the successful student to fail. They need to be encouraged to take risks and work through adversity. They need to know that they are valued for more than being perfect or smart. They need the adults in their lives to let them know that they believe in them, even with their imperfections and challenges. The next group that we're going to discuss is the creative gifted child. The creative child, oh my, these are beautiful, strong spirits, and they have little patience for the mundane. They need accepting adults to allow them to work outside of the box, and they're highly sensitive. This can include emotionally, aesthetically, or physical sensitivity. The sensitivity can make them psychologically vulnerable. They often see things as black and white, and they have a strong sense of justice. They often walk to a different drum, and they can wear us out. But they also make lives beautiful and more meaningful. The creative child can be very impulsive and can act without thinking everything through. Emotion, rather than common sense, may rule. They often have strong sense of fairness, and they have a difficult time accepting what doesn't seem fair to them. Combine these traits with all the energy and original thought, and you can understand that the creatively gifted are often at odds with adults and peers. Whoops. Creative children need to feel accepted and valued by others. They need to feel safe and understood. They need to be strategically taught how to appropriately interact with others. They may need strategies to assist them in monitoring their triggers and to develop a healthy psychological outlook. Because they question rules and challenge authority, They can have a difficult time in the traditional school system. As a parent or caring adult, let them know that you will support them in school, but they are responsible for the consequences of their actions. The creative child is best supported by adults that hear them out and respect their individuality. Help the creative child to pursue their passions and develop their strengths. The next group that we'll be discussing is the underground. The underground gifted and talented student feels like he or she does not belong. They feel conflicted and unsure of themselves. They try to blend into the crowd in an effort to not be noticed. They may hide their abilities in an effort to not be seen as different. The underground student will underachieve to keep from standing out. They will push others away and they may not connect socially. The underground child needs support to develop an explicit understanding of conflicts. Often, underground children feel undervalued by school, groups, or society. They need to find role models that they can relate to and other people that will listen to them. The underground are often not recognized for their talents and deny their potential. They are often unseen. Underground students from minority cultures need help building bridges to assist them to be successful lifelong learners. They can benefit from open discussions about class, racism, sexism, and how they affect current thought and behavior patterns. Parents of middle-level girls may notice that their daughters need to be surrounded with extra support. Provide positive role models for them that show that they can break through barriers. The adults in their lives can help build a positive mindset and resilience to walk their own path. Next, we're going to talk about the at-risk child. The at-risk gifted child may need many interventions and resources to realize a healthy, balanced outlook on life, relationships, and school. They will display strong behaviors that can result in pushing adults away when they need them the most. They are at risk of dropping out of school or even self-harm. The most important dynamic to assist an at-risk child is to develop relationships with people they can trust. They will often make themselves difficult to help as they push back on efforts to help them. The at-risk child may need professional counseling and alternative environments. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. Working through the behaviors of an at-risk child is hard. They push all the buttons. They resist the help that they need the most. They can make themselves very hard to like. Their peers and the adults that work with them may have negative perceptions of them due to their behaviors. The at-risk gifted child will need to learn appropriately how to self-advocate for their needs. And at times they may need aggressive advocacy from the adults that support them. Families of an at-risk child are encouraged to seek professional counseling and to find a path towards a healthy future for all concerned. Everyone that works with them needs to stay resilient and not give up. The adults in their lives need to continue to believe that every day can make a positive change, and we never know what that one thing may be, but every day is a new chance. Next is the twice exceptional student. They're also known as 2E students. Twice exceptional and multi-exceptional students are gifted, but they also face learning or developmental challenges. Dealing with this dichotomy can be very frustrating for a child as they try to navigate school and life. Because twice exceptionality is such a broad category with so many possible dynamics and characteristics, it is difficult to determine any single group of characteristics. This list is several of the most common. One overlying factor is that gifted children are intense. They are wired differently, and they have strong emotional reactions to stimuli. In some cases, the disabilities can mask the giftedness, or the giftedness can mask the disability. They are in danger of slipping through the cracks in the school system. The twice exceptional child needs to have the focus placed on his or her strengths and passions. I really can't emphasize this enough. Develop their growth through their strengths. The multi-exceptional child walks in two worlds, and they feel different from everyone. It is common for others to focus more in the areas that a child is behind his or her peers than it is to focus on the gifts. Schools and parents need to develop a positive mindset as they create accommodations that will nurture the success of the child. When developing goals, the students' needs and accommodations for their When developing goals, students need accommodations for their disability, but at the same time, focus needs to stay on their strengths. The twice exceptional student needs the strong support of parents. Parents need to educate themselves to learn more about their child's needs and appropriate interventions to help their child be successful. Now, the last profile I'll share with you is the autonomous learner. This is seen as the goal for gifted learners and maybe for everyone to achieve. Bear with me as I read the definition of what an autonomous learner is. Autonomous learners perceive learning and living as two main components of their ongoing developmental potential in the cognitive, emotional, and social and physical domains. Their motivation comes from within. They internalize skills and passion. Learning is their driving force. Autonomous learners are never satisfied, for they perceive their needs for a nourishing life as well as the greater needs of society. The autonomous learner is intrinsically motivated as a learner. The grades and the system are not motivators. Motivation comes from within. They will continue to push themselves to learn more and to become better people. Autonomous learners have the ability to take control of their own learning. They are able to produce beyond the normal boundaries set for them. The autonomous learner needs support from the school system to allow development of a learning program that meets their needs. This system needs to react to input provided by the student to allow the student to reach their highest potential. The autonomous learner is very capable of positive relationships with peers, parents, school, and community. Parents need to advocate for the autonomous learner's needs for opportunities in their passion areas. They need to clear the path to make their goals possible. Autonomous learners may need to have policies waived to allow for acceleration options. They may need time and space restrictions lifted. Basically, they need the barriers moved to allow them to reach their full potentials. Isn't this the overall goal? We need to work. We need to work together so our gifted and talented learners can reach their full potentials. I want to thank you all for joining us with today's presentation. While we start the question and answer section, please take a minute to click on the survey link in the chat box. This will collect your email addresses so we can send you the resources, as well as provide us with feedback for the next table talk. You won't have to take it right now, but we do ask that you open it in a new tab so that you can take it when you have a free moment today. Okay. I'd like to go to Jody for the question and answer section.
Awesome. Thanks, Pam. We're so glad that you were able to join us today. What questions do you have for us? And if you're more comfortable, you can type them in a chat. We have one of our gifted and talented specialists who's monitoring the chat, or you can just unmute and share those questions with us.
I have a question.
Okay.
So I know my son goes to Chapelo. He's in 7th grade, I believe. Who would his I guess counselor be, or person of for the GT?
That is Danae Rosso. And we actually will have a list of the GT specialists for you as in, I think it's just the next slide. So that resource will be available for everyone if you're unsure who your specialist is.
Okay.
And Pam, you can actually go to that slide and
Okay,
then and that way that can be up while we're answering questions or talking about questions that we may have. Does anybody else have any other questions? That was an excellent question, by the way. We're all navigating our new world, and it's hard sometimes to feel connected with our child's school. I know I'm a parent of a student in District 6, and I often find myself having these questions that I didn't have before. So, and knowing the right person is important. So what other questions might you have?
I got one. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so I'll try to be general with this one. Anyone who knows my kid will know what I mean. I guess my kiddo is more of an autonomous learner, but extrinsic motivation is a big issue. It's all intrinsic, follows his passions, driving me crazy about the grades. Any tips? Tiffany's smiling. She's dealt with this kid a lot.
I love your kid.
You know my kid? Everyone knows my kid. It's a pain in the ass.
Who would like to go ahead, Pam? I would love for you to address this, but okay. I want you to know that I am a parent of a gifted student with the same, so I need support as well, and I'm a gifted specialist. So,
and this is, I mean, this is one of the hard things. Our goal is for them to be autonomous and to have that intrinsic motivation. And yeah, it would really be nice if their grades reflected their abilities.
Exactly.
And that's the whole balancing act for it. So, maybe one suggestion I would have in it, and I don't know your child, so I maybe some others that do know them and know better can touch base with you afterwards. One of the first things I'm kind of thinking about is think about what those passions are and what goals they may have, and then try and get them on board with, to reach those goals, you might need some grades in there, or if you want in college, it might be good if your grades get you up there so you can be applied. Because it's like a lot of students don't see the value, but they still see the value in learning. And maybe the other thing I would say as a parent of children that are now adult gifted learners, and having walked through that path, it's hard for parents to let go, and a lot of times those decisions, it works themselves out, because they have so much wonderful things going for them. And looking back, a lot of the things that I stressed over as a parent, it just kind of worked out,
Good to hear.
Really quickly, not to get off a topic, but somebody helped me realize that the first link I put in there for the survey gave you the edit link. So you could go in and edit our survey, and we don't want that because it won't collect any information for us. So I just threw up a different link in the chat. So if you will close the first survey that you opened up,
Okay.
and open the one I just placed in the chat, I would greatly appreciate that. And Julie, I promise Rudy will be an amazing human being. We've just got to get through these years.
You're the kid.
Thank
Huh?
you. Thank you, Tiffany. William, did you have a question as well?
Yes, I did. Thanks. So I appreciate the presentation. I've identified kind of the category that my youth is in. What's the next step? What should I do next?
So, as I always go back to Dr. George Betts, who came up with these profiles, and he always would say, work with their passions, encourage their passions, and let them grow with their passions. And he'd tell a story of one of his daughter's passions were snakes, and they really had this long discussion as we wish this was not her passion, but they had snakes, and they kept doing it. So I say just work with their passions, help them broaden their base knowledge, help them learn new things, and just foster all of their wonderful gifts.
I would add to that too. Listening goes a really long way, and it really ties in with what Pam said about the passion is. And I'm saying this as a gifted specialist, and I'm trying to listen as a parent, because it's really hard when you love the person, but really just listening to them and not trying to fix or to react, but to really truly listen. And when I actually do that with my gifted child, he will come back to me later, maybe asking questions based on what you heard, and instead of what we as parents want to hear, or because I will, when I'm going down a non-listening path, then I'm trying to get him down my path. But if I follow his path, I don't know if that helps or not, William, but I do know that that's something that helps me with my son, who, Julie, really does kind of match what you were saying about your son, my own son. I mean, he really knows what he wants. So, and it isn't always what his dad and I want.
Thanks. That does help. And as a guy, sometimes I have this path that we're going to fix, and we're all going to get in the right direction. So that listening, active listening, is a good task to learn.
Okay, we have a couple more with the raised hands. One of you just want to jump in?
And Brett did the same thing. With Brett, he hung out in there for about 2 weeks to make sure management was on.
Okay, you need to move maybe closer to your microphone. I can't hear.
There was one occasion where I couldn't handle the high schooler. Like, he had to deal with this kid, and then he also just left.
I'm wondering if we're hearing background conversation.
Right here, right in this office.
Okay.
But I was just alone.
Linda, I know you've had your hand up for a bit. Do you want to hop on here and ask your question?
Yeah, my concern was with some of the different categories of gifted children. It looked like there's some that are underachieving. And so what my question is how is it that how do you overcome identifying those children who are underachieving, if they're underachieving, but they're gifted and talented, but they're not willing to show that they're gifted and talented? How is it that you can even identify them, or do they end up falling through the cracks?
It is a struggle. It is a struggle, and other GT specialists can weigh in. But I guess, Linda, what I would say about that is, you know, kudos to District 6 for recognizing that that there's a need for gifted and talented specialists. So that helps. Like, our district has taken a step in the right direction, because this year I've been involved at the state level, and there's a lot of districts who just don't even really have specialists. So we do have a leg up on that. But I think a lot of it's just staying current, you know, being in our buildings, making ourselves available to all different staff members, even, you know, anybody that would have a connection with a child, and making ourselves, you know, being available to people who have insight on children. And believe it or not, they do tell us, you need to watch this student. And so then, Linda, what we do is we have a list. We keep lists, all kinds of lists actually, but we keep lists of students that we watch. And then we let the grown-ups that are working with them know, hey, we are looking at this student, you know, and here are some look-fors. So it really comes with education and just educating staff, all staff. Does anybody have anything to add to that? Because I know there's a lot that I'm forgetting.
I would say that's one of the benefits of the district-wide cognitive test screening, which is a process that we do every year for our second graders, to begin that process of identifying who are the kids whose thinking skills really indicate, oh, there's something there, regardless of their grades and regardless of, you know, any other reading, math type tests they're taking. But separate from that, that's the power of the cognitive testing, which we're required to do to identify a student anyway. But that often provides us a window and to be able to identify the difference between a possible underachieving kid academically, but someone who still is truly gifted, because those cognitive scores would illuminate that for us. And then we can kind of follow up from there, if that makes sense.
That does make sense. I guess that's what I was concerned about. And obviously I'm, you know, not within the district other than my children being within the district, but I was concerned. I remember volunteering in the school and different grades, and you know, just in the short amount of time that I was there, I could tell that some of the kids that were just lashing out or just showing inappropriate behaviors, you could just tell that there was something more there, and that they just have, you know, this great potential and these abilities. But I just was concerned that even what if you do those cognitive testing, the cognitive tests, and they're still just not displaying what is really beneath the surface, you know. And my concern is for those kids, if they just get pushed aside, then they end up in society and get labeled with other things that would cause, that instead wouldn't help to propel their potential, but instead would push them down. And then they could potentially end up with, you know, more social issues as well as mental issues.
Right. And I think it's important too for not only parents, but teachers to remember that, yes, we start the cognitive testing in second grade, but it's not a one and done thing. So if you didn't have a good day that one day in second grade when you sat down and take that test, oh, well, too bad. So that's something that when those kids kind of bubble to our attention, oftentimes because, like you mentioned, those behaviors are a little wonky, that's kind of an indicator too that, hey, if this data is old, maybe it's time to re-up on the data, and let's maybe give this cognitive test again to see where we're at, see the change between the second grade piece of data and the one today, to see kind of a little bit deeper what's going on with their thinking skills ability. And then of course we would hope that, kind of as you alluded to, those would be cases where we need to bring in some mental health professionals, because we have degrees to educate, but we're not therapists or psychologists either. And we want to make sure that we can guide students and parents in the direction too, to maybe help ameliorate whatever else might be going on, so that maybe some of their potential can shine through too. So it does become very much a village, all hands on deck